Hi folks, today's video I'll be talking about exploring your own identity using tabletop role-playing games. So one of the great things about playing tabletop role-playing games is you get to be somebody else. You get to be, a tiefling that can throw magic around, or somebody running in a sci-fi space adventure. You can kind of, depending on what system you're playing in, there's all these different options to be not yourself and get to kind of walk in somebody else's shoes. But I imagine you probably have noticed, like I have, that there can be times where you end up realizing, oh, I've played kind of the same characters a number of times. And we are going to do a video coming up talking about playing against type. So it's some advice on playing a character that is very different from yourself. But I found that kind of a lot of the things that I end up putting into my characters, or the types of characters I ended up playing, do kind of offer an interesting insight to some of my own identity. I've played a number of characters that I've kind of gotten to play with, like the first character I ever played, Tala. She didn't lie, but she wouldn't always tell the full truth. And that was an interesting thing that I kind of played around with and used it a little bit to explore my own feelings towards that approach of, maybe not being 100% honest all the time, but not lying, and how I felt about that. Kind of reflecting it back on the character, I was like, yeah, I think there are definitely times where that approach is appropriate, but maybe not to the extreme that she took it. Another character I played definitely was exploring the idea of being given responsibilities. This was a character that was kind of was elected as kind of, okay, you're going to be the next religious leader in the town. And she wasn't sure if that's something that she wanted, but that's what everyone was expecting her to do. And this was a character I played at a time where I was kind of feeling a lot of external pressures to be something and wasn't really sure how I felt with that. Even though a lot of what was being expected of me lined up with what I wanted to do, it was an interesting kind of getting to explore those feelings outside of myself. And one of the reasons I think getting to explore your different aspects of your identity is really great with tabletop role-playing is you're playing a character. You're not yourself. So if somebody reacts badly to your character, it's a little bit removed. It's not as personal as if they are reacting to you. And I think this is also a reason that a lot of people in the LGBTQ+ community end up getting attracted to tabletop role-playing, because it's an opportunity to play around, explore their identity in kind of a safe environment, and also can kind of be used a little bit to judge, like, hey, would my friends be okay if I came out? Is this going to be a safe experience without having to fully come out of the closet? I know I even ran into that a little bit. I'm in my mid-30s, but one of the early characters I played was attracted to women, and that was something that I wasn't super open with a lot of my friends. So when this came up at the table, there was a moment of like, I think my friend's going to be okay with it, but I'm also a little nervous. But I also knew that, if they reacted negatively, that kind of told me, like, cool, great, you're not somebody who I'm going to necessarily come out to very early on. And there are a lot of other folks that have talking about this. I'm going to put a link to a couple of resources down in the description. And another aspect that I think oftentimes gets overlooked, because this gets discussed a lot more when you're creating a character, but I've also had times where I've kind of reflected back on, where have my characters all ended up? How have they evolved? Where has their storyline gone? And sometimes it's unrelated. Sometimes I play a character just because it's a cool concept and it really has nothing to do with exploring my identity. But I have noticed some patterns in the characters, and sometimes that's stuff that I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, that lines up with who I see myself as, so that makes sense. And other times it's like, oh, that's very different from how I see myself. Why do I keep being drawn to these types of characters. And sometimes it can be, yes, that is a personality that maybe I would like to emulate. Sometimes it is also just, this is a very different character than me, and that can be really fun to play as well. We've done a video before talking about kind of the therapeutic aspects of tabletop role-playing games. You can go check it out up there. Not to say that you should use your game table as a therapy session. Nope, unless you are playing with a licensed therapist, that is part of the thing. Don't do that. But there can be some therapeutic aspects, including exploring your identity, that I think tabletop role-playing is really great. I mean, it is very similar to when you're a kid and you get to pretend to be a cowboy or a doctor or an astronaut or a mom, getting to play pretend and figure out what are the things you like, what are the things you don't like, what are the things about yourself that you like, and maybe what are the things you don't like that maybe you want to change. I want to give a special thanks to all of our patrons, especially Tucker. If you want to support our channel, you can head on over to patreon.com/rollforinitiative and check out the perks of being a patron. I would love to hear if you've ever had a aha moment because of a character playing where you're like, oh my gosh, all these characters have had kind of similar storylines. Huh, that's interesting. Or if you've kind of discovered something about your own personality, about your own identity, thanks to tabletop role-playing. I'd love to hear about those moments down in the comments below. Happy Pride Month. I want to say to all of my fellow LGBTQA+ folks, whether you're out in the closet, out to some people, in the closet to some other people, I hope you have a great Pride Month. You're valid. You're amazing. I love the tabletop role-playing community. I love all of the wonderful folks that I've met thanks to this hobby, the folks that have helped me be more open about myself, and I hope that you find a wonderful community and find folks that you can be your true self with. This is a little nerve-wracking of a video to make.